Let's get down to brass tacks. Welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. Here we are, ready to rock and roll and to have another great discussion. And I think you guys are going to really enjoy this. It's going to be a lot of fun tonight. Just to give a blanket hello to all of you guys in the chat. Thank you guys for being here. What's up to Paula and to RJ? All right. Good to see you guys. We got Jerry in the house. Hope you guys are doing well. Melissa. Hey, Melissa. How's it going? And we got Dan in the house. What's up, Dan? Good to see you, man. You know it. Helen. Nobody does it better, though, than the late, great Tony Todd. Okay. We got Val in the house. What's up, Val? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Very cool. Spoof. What's up, Spoof? We got Mr. Rick. Hope you're doing well. Saying good evening. Can't stay long. Just stopping by to say hi. Well, we hope that you can stay as long as you can. This is going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to really have some fun with this tonight. We're going to be talking about a very special movie and some things surrounding that film and also how that coincides with horror in general and so forth. But I can't do it alone. So what I wanted to do is introduce my guest. This is something that we've kind of talked about a little bit here and there a couple of times, sometimes from the live chat. My guest would say a certain point of view, and I'll be quite honest, it made me really think a lot about what's going on with this film, not only the surface level, but things that are a lot deeper. So let me bring on my guest. You guys know this person, you love this person, and it is Miss Rachel. What's going on?
Hello, I am ready and good to go.
You got to... Hey, look, let me just say something. And I love this movie, and we're going to get into the movie and our opinions and thoughts and debates in a little bit in a second. I love this movie, and I couldn't even tell you how many times I've watched it, but I did watch it again just last night because I said to myself, Rachel doesn't play around. She's known to have the knitting needles ready to go. So I've got to make sure that I'm at least able to stay afloat a little bit as we deep dive into this fantastic 1992 film. So let me start off by saying that Candyman for me was a really special movie for a lot of reasons. And I'm sure you'll get into it too once I turn this to you. But 1992, and at that point, horror had really hit a lot of dry patches for me as a fan. I just want to throw that out there to be very transparent. We had Silence of the Lambs, which if you've been on this channel for any amount of time and paid attention, you guys know that's one of my favorite, not only horror films of all time, but my favorite films, my favorite actor and actress, and so forth. Um, but you have to understand, for me as a horror fan, growing up at the time, watching the Trinity, which of course was the Friday the 13th films, Halloween films, and Nightmare on Elm Street films, they had all, kind of gone through the ringer at that point. We had gone to Vancouver, we
Yeah.
had the Keystone Cops and Halloween, and Freddy's cracking jokes. So
Mm.
my perception of horror had really, in other words, I was almost like in a depression, of horror, and outside of what happened with Wes in 96, there wasn't a lot of hope for me. I'm not saying I hated horror, but I'm just saying I didn't have as high of the vibe, you know what I'm saying? But when Candyman came out, it was a really cool joke because in school we were all talking about Candyman. All of my friends that had seen this film, people who hadn't even seen it, were scared of him and talking about this movie. And especially growing up in the city, having, someone like Tony Todd to see in this role and be so commanding as he was, it was very cool to kind of see that, to see someone that also, that I was like, well, hey, this black guy is commanding this shit like to the nines, you know? And so it was very integral in my horror fandom. So I just wanted to throw that out there so people understood that. For you, let's start this off for you. What was your first connection to this film? What did that look like for you?
This was one of the earlier horror films that I watched when I was a teen, so I definitely didn't see it in '92. I was only a kid at that point, so a little too young. But as I got older and wanted to get into horror, you hear about horror movies and you go to, well, now I'll show my age, you go to the video store and you go down to Blockbuster,
Hmm.
and the horror section was always the funnest section of Blockbuster because it had all of the best covers. So I would go to that section and I would look at movies that I would want to watch when I would be allowed to watch it or when I was at the point where I could. And I do remember seeing the Candyman cover because it was that white cover with the I and the B and being like, oh my God, like what's this film about? And then I
Hmm.
remember seeing it with a friend of mine when I was about 16, 17, and we were watching it she was actually the cousin of the guy that I was dating at that time. So we watched it at his house and his brothers kept messing with us while we were watching this movie. I remember that distinctly. So we were watching it like in the living room and we had some of the lights on. And at one point, one of them like walked past and turned all the lights off. And all of a sudden, we were in complete darkness. And I just remember the two of
Oh,
us like screaming because we were like, what the hell is happening? And and they were like making noises. And then afterwards, the two of us ran off to the bathroom to like say Candyman in front of the mirror because apparently we just didn't pay attention to what was happening in the movie. And we decided that would be a good idea. But I remember that we stood in front of the mirror and we got to 4 Candymans, and we
yeah.
couldn't quite bring ourselves to say the 5th one, and then my boyfriend's younger brother walked past the
Okay,
bathroom,
that's
said
what I
the 5th
wanted to
one,
know.
and turned the light off, and we were just like,
What?
"No!" So he left us there in the bathroom, in the pitch black bathroom after
No.
saying Candyman for the 5th time, so
No.
so that was a great
Wow, what
memory
a
for me. So
chicken.
so I know, I know. Just flip the switch, run off, leave the girls alone. It's like, well, thanks, buddy. That's great. But no, so this was one of the
That's
earliest
that's
ones.
horrible.
Like,
That's
oh,
horrible. You just
we yeah, we were all teenagers. We were all having a lot of fun. We had kind of kicked them out of their own living room to watch the movie too,
yeah.
so might have been a little bit of revenge. So, but I remember
Oh,
really
okay.
falling in love, yeah, with this movie. It just when I first saw it, I remember it really scared me. Like I found like Tony Todd so intimidating and so scary. And for me, the
Yes.
scariest part was that Helen was seduced by him as well as being scared of him. So it's like he's not just going to come and like mess you up. Like he's going to come and make you want him to come into your life. He's going to make it so that you feel
Right.
like you've invited him into your life. And, you know, Helen definitely struggles with that. But then I didn't see the movie for a very long time. I'm not quite sure why. It just
Mhm.
might not have been available to find or to buy or to rent. And it kind of faded into this dim memory for me. And then when I saw it
Mm.
again in like my late 20s, I like watched it. I was like, oh my God, I remember now why I fell in love with this when I first saw it.
Mhm.
Like it was so arresting and so spellbinding. And it almost had like a fairy tale quality to it. It was almost
Yes.
like a horrific fairy tale playing out in real life. And it just really gripped me. And yes, I absolutely loved seeing, you know, a horror movie commanded by a person of color and having Tony Todd in that role. And, you know, this is when I was watching, you know, more horror and seeing what horror could do and what kind of stories it could tell. And I do very much love the social commentary that is built into Candyman and the Cabrini Green storyline and all of that. And as I got older,
Mhm.
that part of the story really started to appeal to me. And I think that in particular, the most recent sequel did a really good job in picking up those themes. So that's kind of what
Mm.
Candyman is to me. You know, it was one of the earliest ones I saw. It left a huge impression. And then when I was finally able to purchase it and buy it and just watch it whenever I wanted to, just became fantastic. It's actually funny. I searched for Candyman for months. I couldn't find it. I was hunting for it.
Wow.
And when I finally hunted it down in a secondhand DVD store, and then like literally 2 months later, they released it on Blu-ray and the Criterion Collection, and I was like, "Oh,
Mm.
okay." So I just if I had just been patient, then I would have
Right.
just found it easily. But yeah, no, I Candyman's always been very special to me. It was one of the original horror movies that I saw, and I've always loved it.
That is really, really interesting. It's always cool to see how people get connected to certain films, like the history that they have with it. And I think it's really cool for us as horror fans because there's a lot of through lines in our stories, even though we're all different and have different circumstances, there's a lot of through lines. You guys in the chat, let us know, what's your connection to Candyman as far as, when you first saw it and how that all came about. Real quick, just to jump back with you guys for a second, just wanted to say hey to David. He's in the house. Um, and BTT is saying that Candyman rules. That's what I'm talking about. Well,
Absolutely.
Rachel, he does. And Rachel, you know what else rules?
Mhm.
Is Roger Smith has just joined the channel membership, officially becoming a
Awesome.
watcher, and that is awesome. Hold
Mhm.
on, let's give you a shout out here, Roger. Hold on one second. Hold on.
We got a member. We've got a member.
There you go.
Welcome to the Night Watch Zone.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
You're all right.
you're all right, Roger. Thank you so
Very
We
much.
got a
nice.
member. We've
Thank
got a
you.
member.
we
Welcome.
appreciate we appreciate the support. Seriously, it means a lot to us. And we've got some really cool things coming up, exclusive live streams and watch parties and so forth, some fun things for the channel members. But it helps to keeps the lights on. So thank you, thank you, thank you. We appreciate that. We also got Jado in the chat, and Val is always working hard in the chat, welcoming Roger to the watchers. Thank you so much. We appreciate that. Val saying Candyman was one of those that actually scared me. That's a great point. Very, very cool. And also, if you haven't, make sure you guys support and subscribe to Rachel's channel. And we've got the description here in the chat, and we also have it in the description of this live stream. Hey, Gene, what's going on? Good to see you. And thank you for reminding folks, Val, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. We got DJ in the house. Um, Mr. Rick is in the house. And I agree. Obviously, this is a big rest in peace to the late great Tony Todd, and I think that they really should have had him in the Oscars memorial as well. The thing about it is, we're talking about Candyman, which he's most famous for. But if you have followed his career, if you know a lot about his career, he did tons of
He's done
things,
so much work. Mhm. Yeah.
tons. And not only in front of the screen, he's done voice work, He's
Yes.
been in
Mhm.
animated things. I mean, it is really an amazing career that he's had. So, if you're a fan of Tony Todd, check out his career. I think you'll be very impressed and maybe find some things that you haven't seen him in. Ryan's in the house. Hey, Ryan, good to have you here. And yes, I have seen Suspiria 2018, and that's a
I
whole
haven't. Not
that's
yet.
that okay.
Mm,
Hey, that might have to be a conversation, Rachel,
okay. I've seen
because
the original, but I haven't seen the 2018 one. So,
l-
yeah,
let
still
me
on my
ask you
to watch
this:
list. Mm.
were you a fan of the original?
Oh, yeah, yeah, I love the original. I
Okay.
think the way again, because it's like a fairy tale and,
Yes.
just the use of color and everything to do in it. It's basically, a princess overcoming the wicked witch. So, I do really
Right.
like the original, but I've heard that the remake is, like, really messed up, like, possibly even more so than the original and gets into, like,
Whew.
some really weird, like, psychological stuff. So, it would be very interesting to watch that.
Yeah, I'm gonna say it right now. That might have to be our next conversation because that's a deep
Okie
one. I'm
dokie.
telling you. I'm just throwing that out to you. We also
Okie
have
dokie.
our good friend Barb in the house saying, "Hey guys, great to see your smiling faces tonight. Good to have you here, Barb. Hope you're doing well." Okay. Um, and Dan was saying he saw it with a bunch of people, too many distractions to realize how
Oh,
great it
that's a
was.
pity.
Yep, yep. And that's right. Tony Todd, it wasn't Star Trek. Absolutely. He's been all over the place.
Mhm.
All over the place. Hey Paula, good to see you. And we've got N Ready in the house. Good to have you here. My
Hey,
favorite horror film of the 90s. Ooh, very cool.
nice.
Welcome, welcome. Well, if you guys haven't hit the like button, please do. If you're not subscribed, we'd love to have you join us here at the Night Watch Zone and also to Rachel's channel, which we have in the description of this video and also in the live chat. So, okay, so let's start to get into a couple of things about Candyman, Rachel. When we start this movie up, I just wanted to touch upon a few aspects of the film. It starts with this whole idea of an investigation into an urban legend. And we hear one of those stories about a couple, and of course we have someone that makes a choice, and that is not a good choice. Let me also say to the live chat, in case you're wondering, no, I have not said Candyman 5 times, and I still won't. I
I
won't.
understand. I
I
get
won't do it.
it.
That's how powerful this film is. I just want to throw that out there. But Rachel,
Mhm.
in the beginning of the film, I don't want to necessarily go beat for beat, but in the
Mm.
beginning, as far as the story being told, in this intro of the film, what did you think of that as a vibe? Because it's obviously similar. We've seen people around the campfire telling the stories and so forth, like in Friday the 13th, and so forth. But this felt a little bit different. What did you think of this intro?
I really like this intro. Val actually mentioned something earlier. She said growing up with the Bloody Mary legend had made
Yes.
her, more open to this film. And I was the same because I grew up with the Bloody Mary legend. So this was definitely playing on that. So I do think that this is a really fun open because it is almost a misleading open because we get this open, with this young couple and, it feels like this is where I can see where people might think this is a slasher film. We'll talk about later, get into whether or not it is. But this feels like a very slashery open. You've got the young dumb
Hmm.
teenagers at home drinking when they're supposed to be babysitting, doing stupid things like summoning Candyman. And what I really love about this open though is that you don't fully see him and you don't really see the kill. You just see this
Yes.
flash that you've got up here, and then you hear the scream, and then you see the guy look up and there's blood on the ceiling, and then we cut to Helen, and it's like, oh, okay, so we're not even possibly watching something that's actually happened. We're just
Hmm.
talking about a reimagining of this urban legend. So I thought that was
Right.
actually a really fun way to kind of tease Candyman and tease
Hmm.
what's coming without fully throwing into our faces what we're going to get into. And of course, once we actually get into the story and we start to learn the legend, we realize that, yeah, that first bit was just a little bit of like horror play by play to kind of pique your interest, get you sucked in, and then you get to realize like how much more terrifying the story actually is. So I think it's a
Yes.
really effective opening. What do you reckon, Knight?
Well, I think that it's such a very good opening that kind of gets you right into the heart of what's going on It gives you a little bit. It's funny because it gives you a little bit of that 80s slasher vibe, kind of
Yeah.
like the Friday the
Yes.
13th thing going
Mhm.
on. And shout out to Ted Raimi, the brother of Sam
Yes.
Raimi,
I
playing
knew it
that
was a
bit
Raimi, I
role.
couldn't remember the name, but I was like, "I know it's
Yeah.
a Raimi." Yes.
Yeah, so Candyman, has a little bit of the 7 degrees of separation or whatever to
Mhm.
Evil Dead, so that's kind of cool. But yeah, I thought the intro was very well done, and it gave you a lot without giving you a lot. It gets your mind working because I got to admit,
Mhm.
when I first saw this opening, I was just like, oh, wow, like
Yeah.
he just straight up murderized this chick, and I'm like, wow. And what was also um, very intense for me is when they were telling the story and they talked about how when the boyfriend or Ted Raimi, when he found her, his hair turned white
It turned
and he
white.
eventually
Yes.
went insane. And I'm thinking to
Mhm.
myself, wow, what the hell did this guy see
Mhm.
to
Yes.
literally turn his hair white? I think
Mhm.
that's such an effective explanation of how scary something can be without having to show it. So my
Yes.
mind was already
Yes.
working at 100 miles an hour in the beginning, and I
Yes.
think it was very
Absolutely.
effective. Yeah,
Mm.
and they
Oh, I
didn't
should
even
have
have to show
mentioned,
anything.
no, and that I think is great. Like I've said before, sometimes the scariest thing is what you can imagine. But I should also mention,
Yes.
I do love the opening narration with all the bees on the screen, and there's just Tony Todd's voice just going, "I will split
Yes.
you from your groin to your gullet." And you're like, "Okay, buddy, all
Yeah.
right, we're definitely in for some intensity
Yeah.
here."
Yeah, it's crazy. It is so crazy. Um, real quick too, let me just jump to the chat, because and I was gonna say this. I was wondering if he'd be here, my good buddy Marty from the Trash Picture Show. Happy St. Patty's Day to your brother. Hope you're doing well. Good to see you. I know he's a fan of Candyman and classic horror. Um, Dan saying I think Candyman doesn't get enough credit for the score and cinematography. Very true. Very true. And Val, thank you so much for wishing Marty a happy St. Patrick's Day. Very, very cool. Um, BTT saying a lot of people get confused. A big moment that Candyman didn't kill the kid in the public restroom. It was the gang member posing. Yeah, and that's actually an aspect of the movie that I think is also pretty cool. Is that not only do we have this killer, this supernatural killer, but the effect that he has on the community is so interesting and very complex. You've got some that totally are afraid of him, don't even want to say his name once, let alone frickin' 5 times. You've got some that almost, they almost like deify him. You know what I'm saying? It's almost like paying your respects and so forth. And then you have some people that think that they can put on a pimp coat like Tony Todd and act like Tony Todd, but you're not Candyman. You're not. But there are
And no
some
matter how much you try, I
you
heard you
can
looking for
try.
Candyman, bitch. It's like,
Yeah.
"Nah, man, you're not it. You're not it. No one wants to be your victim, buddy."
Yes. No one wants to be your victim. That's great. Um, Good point, though. Good point, BTT. Barb saying, this is why I don't mind PG-13 rated horror because it relies on your imagination at times. It's a
I
very,
agree.
very good point.
Mhm.
Yes, no doubt at all. Um, let's see. Yes, the imagination can be the worst enemy. There's no doubt about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Mhm.
no doubt. Now, once we start to get into the story, obviously, one thing that I want to mention is we get introduced to Helen, and obviously, Virginia Madsen carries so much weight in this film as the lead character. And let me just say, as a kid, I mean, being in, I was in school at the time. There was something about Virginia, then there still is something about Virginia Madsen. She's got such charisma, and I'm telling you, as soon as she came onto the screen, look, I know she got hypnotized in the movie. We'll probably touch upon that. I got hypnotized. I was just like, wow, this lady, there's just something, just like a lot of actors or actresses. Sometimes if they have a certain charisma, you get hypnotized by their performance. And I was totally invested in her and basically hypnotized myself. And I appreciated her intelligence. She was, she was badass in her own way. She had this bravery about her, and I was really invested in what she was trying to do. What were your thoughts of Helen in the beginning of the film?
I love Helen. She
Yes.
is look, I agree with you. She's Virginia Madsen, she's very magnetic. She can really
Mm,
hold a scene and really hold your attention even when she's not doing much in a scene. And what I really like about Helen is, like you said, she's very determined, she's very gung ho. She really wants to do this paper correctly. As she said, she doesn't just
yes.
want to spout out a bunch of facts that no one's, that everyone's kind of done before. She's brave
Hmm.
enough to go to Cabrini Green, this place where she could get attacked or she could, and she does at some point. But I think that,
Hmm.
she's very gutsy, and I really like that about her. You can tell right from the beginning that she's really into what she's doing. When she's talking to the cleaning ladies, and she wants to find out what happened to Ruthie Jean, and she's really keen to,
Hmm.
to interview everyone. And I just think that she is so great. And as the movie goes on, you just feel so bad for this poor woman because
Yes.
everyone thinks she's going crazy, and we know she's not going crazy. We know
Right.
that, she's basically a Cassandra and she's telling the truth, but, everyone, and oh my God. Okay, a little bit off topic, but if we want to talk about bad horror partners, Helen's husband might take the cake for one of the worst. Trevor and his stupid receding hairline, I just want to punch him in the face. And
Right.
Helen is such a great character, and she's so
Yeah.
awesome. And it's like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you stepping out on this lady? Why are you being such a dick? Oh yeah, we're
Right.
definitely going to talk more about Trevor later. Because Jesus Christ, I hate Trevor more than I hate Glenn. Okay, like Trevor is like
Ooh.
one of the worst of the worst.
I
He's
absolutely agree with you. I absolutely agree. I'm like Xander Berkeley. He's that slimy type of actor. He's a great
really is,
character
isn't
actor.
he?
But
Yes, he
holy shit,
is.
I was thinking the same thing too. It's like, bro, what are you doing? It's like you literally have Virginia Madsen, and she's. Here's the thing. I mean, of course, I don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but the thing about her, the way she's depicted in this film, and I'm sure there's a lot of truth in real life. I've seen a lot of her interviews, and she is absolutely lovely. But in this film, you know, she's kind, she's beautiful, and she has this thing that's just so interesting about her. There's a confidence about her, but yet, she's just a great catch. So when you start to see that aspect of the film play out too, I'm just thinking, this guy's a friggin' idiot.
Yep.
Like truly, truly. Um, but I absolutely love this character. And you're right, the things that she's doing, just to give you guys, and it's we listen, let me just back up for a second. For a lot of folks haven't been around long enough to remember. I think Val obviously has, Dan, of course. Dan's been here forever, which is so awesome. But we did a lot of coverage of Candyman leading up to the newest film. But I never got a chance to do a lot of deep dives with it. So I'm glad we're having this type of conversation. But let me just say this: when she goes investigating this scene right here, when she basically is like, look, okay, are we gonna go or we're gonna go, are we gonna do this right or not? I said to myself,
Yep.
look, you're cool at all, you're awesome, you're beautiful at all, and you've got a fantastic head on your shoulders, but this might be a dumb move right here. Because listen, when she goes to the projects, I'm like,
Mhm.
look, I know what that looks like. I've been in
Mhm.
areas like that. And trust
Yeah.
me, it was never on purpose. It was never on purpose. So I'm thinking to myself, don't do this. It was just one of those scenes that as a viewer, I'm like, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. That's stupid,
Mhm.
that's stupid. But that's also what intrigued me so much, because I'm like, how is this gonna go? And
Mhm.
oh my God, it was just like, I was scared for her. I was truly
No.
scared for
I
her.
I hear you. Sometimes you watch that scene, you're like, "Okay, girl, I admire your guts, but you're
Yeah.
also being a little bit stupid. Like, let's
Yeah.
pull it in. Come on." Plus, I
Yeah.
also love when Bernadette's like, "Why do you have us dressed up like cops? This is not gonna work."
Yes.
And I'm like, "Yes! Why would you dress like
Yes.
that?"
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Real quick too in the audience, just to catch up with these guys. Um it's true. Only a jerk like Xander Berkeley would cheat on Virginia Madsen. I know. Like, what an idiot. But he's a great character actor. The character though was a pimp named Candyman. That's right. No doubt. Um Barb said, "Oh my God, Rachel, I could not love you more than this very moment. Get him." That's right. That's right. Uh, and hey, or I should say, hey, we got JT in the house. What's up, brother? Good to see you, man. Awesome to have you here. All right. Very cool. We're talking some Candyman. We're talking some Candyman. Roger, who is our newest channel member and absolutely made our night tonight because it just helps to strengthen this community, helps us to do special streams and more content. Saying, by the way, thank you, Mr. Thank you, Mr. Knight, for having me. Just love your channel. Oh, well, thank you so much. Seriously. I appreciate that. It's always, listen, guys, I kid you not. Um, these type of things, they really do help content creators. They really do, because as
Absolutely.
much as we do what we do and we have fun doing it, and Rachel knows how that is, JT in the chat, Dan, a lot of other content creators here, it's always good to get some feedback, and if it's positive, that's even better. You know what I mean? So seriously, thank you so much, and I truly appreciate that. It's very, very cool. Thank you. Thank you. um Oh, and JT said Rocky's done. Oh my gosh. JT, thank you so much, man. Guys, I'm gonna be getting an amazing gift from an amazing friend. That's all I'm gonna say. I'm gonna be showing it off, bro. You know that. You know how
Awesome.
much I love Rocky. Um, and Dan, very good point. Casey
Mhm.
Lemons was really great as Bernadette. That's the thing, is that you have to have good characters surrounding Virginia and Tony, and Xander was great, and Casey was great. So I totally agree. I totally agree. And yes, she's absolutely gorgeous too, BTT. No doubt about it.
Mhm. It's a
There's
very
no
pretty
doubt.
film. I mean, you've got Virginia Madsen, you've got Casey Lemons, you've got Tony Todd. It's like they're just beautiful people all over this film. I mean,
Yeah.
sure, one of them's trying to kill you, but I can forgive him that.
Yeah, sometimes that happens. Give them a
Sometimes it
break.
happens.
You know, you know, let them blow off a little steam here. Okay, so let's talk about just the overall style of this film. I just want to say, because then I'm going to pass it on to you. I just want to say the style of this film, it really grabbed me. Like, it was so, you mentioned it in the beginning, this fantasy type of vibe, this old campfire story type of vibe. It's just, I had never seen anything like it. And that might sound silly, because at this point I was pretty deep into not only horror films, but my horror fandom. I had watched so much horror at this point. Like I said, growing up, at the time of, the Friday films and Nightmare and Halloween films. And I had watched all of it. Every major horror film up to this point, 1992, I had probably seen, but I had never seen anything like this. What did you think of this style of the film and how it translated to you as a viewer?
There are times when this movie almost comes across as like a dream. So many of these sequences are so slowly and beautifully shot. They're so, like even these scenes, or the scene that you showed before when she's going around Cabrini Green and you see like the Candyman picture. I absolutely love that shot where she climbs through the wall and it pans out and you see that she's actually climbing through the mouth of a Candyman portrait. I just think that's such a great visualization of almost showing Helen entering his world and entering his world
Yeah.
of madness and coming into the spell of Candyman. And I also love how this film is not afraid to also show like the grittiness and the urbanness and the grossness of sometimes where these people are forced to live and where these legends come up from.
Yes.
Like when she goes into the bathroom, and there's shit all over the walls, and you can almost
Hmm.
smell, or just the brief scene of like the kid lying in the pool of blood. Like all of these
Yeah.
are very, yeah, they're very visceral, but I think they're done in such a way that like that scene, for example, they show you just enough, but they don't wallow around in it so that you feel like
Right.
overwhelmed. It's more like you get this quick shot of like, oh my God, that was really bad. And then, like you said,
Yeah.
then you get the thing of like, oh, his hair turned white, and it's like, okay, so something really bad like went down. And I just think a lot of the way that they film, in particular, like Helen and Candyman scene, they're almost romantic. It reminds me almost of like a vampire film, like
Yes.
Dracula or Nosferatu or something like that. It has that sort of a feel. And I do remember finding out that they made Virginia Madsen and Tony Todd take ballroom dancing lessons so that they would look
Yes.
more romantic and more in sync together. And I think that really comes across well. And like this shot here, this shot of him
Iconic.
just in the car park, just the shadow and the light and the way his presence just fills this, like, just the movie. Oh, it's it's
Hmm.
it's a beautifully done movie. I particularly love the scene where that slightly condescending professor is telling Helen about Candyman, and
Yes.
the camera just focuses on Helen, and it's this very beautiful, like almost a glow with her cigarette smoke. And I love that as they're telling the story, you see shadows go across her face, and you hear the sounds of the crowd and of Daniel's death. And I just think that was so well done, as opposed to like another movie might have chose to show the actual death and
Yep.
Candyman's background. Whereas I think the way they chose to do it in this movie just made it that much more effective, that minimalist approach, and using lots of lighting and shadows and all of that. So yeah, I think this movie it's very dreamy. It's a very dreamlike movie, and it just really uses its settings really well. I love the way it uses Cabrini Green and that whole derelict building.
Yes.
There's so many different areas that you see Helen traveling through in that building, and of course the bonfire scene at the end. Yeah, everything about it is just it's a really beautiful film, and but it's not
Yeah.
afraid to show you you know, the real horror of Candyman, like the aftermath of like Bernadette's death, or Anne Marie's apartment, that scene. Like, you really
Hmm.
see the intensity of Candyman, but you also see the dream side of Candyman. So you start to understand why Helen has this pull towards him, even as she is terrified of him. And I think the visuals
Yeah.
and the story really help with that. Yeah.
I absolutely agree. There's like a sophistication to this
Yes.
movie. You
Yes.
know what I'm saying? Like
Absolutely. Hmm.
when I watched it last night, I'm thinking to myself, and it's true of all the greats. It's very true of all the greats in general. But I was thinking, man, this movie looks money even
Yes.
today. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes.
everything about it looks
Yes.
absolutely
Mhm.
amazing. The camera work, the Philip Glass score, everything looks
The
great. The way
score.
that yeah, the score is a character in and of itself. As a kid,
Mhm.
I just remember being so moved, and we talked a little bit about this
Mhm.
last time when this whole idea for this stream kind of came into fruition. I was so moved by the score. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm not trying to sound whatever. I'm man enough to admit it. When this movie ended, I actually rewatched the credits again just to hear that score,
Yep.
as in my mind the movie was just being absorbed into me, and I was I
Mhm.
was I don't know if well, I guess I could say emotional. I felt emotional
Yeah.
because
Mhm.
of the story and what had happened to this lady, because I was so invested in
Mhm.
her. And so, anyways, that's the power of film. And
Yes.
when you get a chance to experience it, as I did, and of course, Rachel, and I'm sure a lot of you with certain films, if not this one, that's a special thing, man. It's a
Mhm.
really special thing. And real quick, just to jump back to the chat, look, there's a lot of things going on. And I just want to say, when you get to be really sneaky, like our good friend Rachel, gifting memberships, like, wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Rachel. That's so
Sweets
kind
to
of
the
you.
sweets.
Let me just say something.
Right there.
Can I say something? And I'm just going to say it live. And again, folks that have been around know this. I've live streamed for a long time. I could not even tell you how many live streams I've done in the whatever 5+ years I've been doing YouTube. Rachel's a sharp tool. She is so sharp. Her timing and everything is just like, she doesn't play around. That's why I love having her on. So thank you so
Thank
much,
you. Of
Rachel. Thank you
course.
so much. For you guys that got gifted a membership, please show some love to Rachel. It's such a kind thing to do. Oh my God, it looked like Board Now got one gifted. That is awesome. Oh my
People
God.
pop up and be like, "Oh, okay."
That was awesome. Thank you so much, though. That was so kind of you.
All
Again, you
good.
guys in the chat, show some love to my amazing friend and guest tonight on the panel. Let's see who else. You guys are so awesome. Seriously, yeah, sometimes I'll read these and it just makes me laugh. Mr. Rick is thanking you for the gift. That is so cool. That is so cool. Sometimes I would have to pause memberships because of bills, but this really
I hear
helps.
ya.
Thank you.
Oh,
I
I'm
really
so
enjoy this.
glad. Yes, the
Very
bills,
cool.
they never stop.
Yes, there you go. Let's see. Dan making a great point, as he always does, saying have an antagonist come after you because you doubted him
Mhm.
rather than wronged him or had premarital sex at a summer camp was definitely different. Very true. Yeah, it's very
Yes.
true. No doubt. And look at this, man. We got JT also stepping up to the
Ah,
plate,
excellent.
coming back on board, and not only coming back on board but joining us at the franchise fans level, which, look,
Awesome.
seriously, JT, thank you so much, brother. I love you. This helps out so much, as as a creator as well. Look, let's do this for all of you guys that got gifted a membership, and we got the awesome JT jumping back in with us too. Let's do a quick clip, and I know somebody said something about it. And look, when you need help in life, some inspiration, there's one guy. No, there's a couple of different people, but this is one of them that I think about. Here it is.
Treat her right, treat your mother right. Treat her right, treat her right. Treat her right, treat your mother right. Treat her right, treat her right.
M is for the moan and the miserable groan from the pain that you felt when I was born.
There we go. There we go.
Prepared for Ed Harris just popping
Ed,
out.
Ed Harris and Mr. T is the combination
Mhm.
that we never knew that we needed. Not all heroes wear capes. That's all I gotta say. That's all I
So
gotta
good.
say. Um, and BTT saying, how do you get gifted memberships? Is it random? It is random. What it is that if you are a frequent flyer of a live stream, YouTube will randomly prioritize those folks. So, keep coming to the live streams as much as you can and stay as long as you can. That's the other thing, too. I know a lot of folks sometimes may not have a lot of time, but the longer you're part of the live streams, YouTube prioritizes those folks. And when we do gifted memberships, those folks are usually at the front of the line, so to speak. So good luck, and I hope that it happens, BTT. We appreciate the support. And again, for you guys who have been gifted memberships, we hope you guys decide to stay. You just have to go into your settings and change it and so forth so that you can stay as a member. We have some really cool stuff coming up. Okay, so next thing I want to talk about, you touched upon it. Obviously, when we have the first showdown of sorts, with Candyman and with Helen. First of all, let me just say, and you touched upon it too. First of all, when you have some dude that has that type of voice, Helen, it's like, oh my God, what is going on? I'm about to run or something, but yet it's intriguing. When she sees him and you see the silhouette, like I mentioned earlier, too, the way the film is shot, it's amazing. Tony looks great, Virginia looks great, everybody looks great. What a scene. She was actually hypnotized, and you could tell. I mean, the look on her
Yeah.
face. As a
Mhm.
kid, I remember as a kid thinking to myself, "Wow, this actress," and she is amazing. Don't get me wrong, but I was thinking, "Wow, this actress is just putting in work. Look at that look." She was actually
Uh-huh.
hypnotized. She said she'll never
Mhm.
do it again, though.
Yeah, she did say that. She did
She
not
said
enjoy
it.
the process. Yes.
Yeah, and then let me just say this too, guys. This is look, first of all, I appreciate everybody dealing with my rants, but as you can tell, I'm so fired up about this movie. We have not had a chance to talk about this movie on this channel in a couple of years. Like I said, we did a lot of content, for the new film, and we did talk about the 1992 film, and it was such a fun time. It was a very good time for the channel too, because a lot of people were kind of, reintroducing themselves to this fantastic film and all of the excitement for the new film. So I'm just hyped up. But the look on her face, I remember as a kid, I was just like, wow. It was just amazing. And this screenshot is a beautiful screenshot. It doesn't do enough justice to it, but it's amazing. What did you think about this scene? Because I was scared as hell for this chick. She's in a parking lot. Okay.
Mhm.
Parking lots, no. You do
No.
not you do not hang out in a parking lot alone in the city. I just wouldn't do it even as a man. I was scared for Helen. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This scene is so great. So I
Yeah.
think one of the things that's really great about this scene, I'm gonna backtrack a little. I think with this movie, outside of, like, that first scene that we see where we see Candyman and we see the teens, and that could even just be seen as, like, someone just having an imagine spot. The movie almost tries to convince you that Candyman isn't actually real, because we have that whole decoy with the gang member and everything,
Hmm.
and this is after all of that has happened. They've gotten the gang member, he's going to jail, their paper's gonna get published, so it's almost like the movie lures you into this false sense of security of like, "Oh, okay, well, she's found Candyman," and then she walks into this very empty car park, and you just hear that Helen, and you're just
Yeah.
like, I remember it's like the hair on the back of your neck just stands straight up, and you're
Hmm.
instantly just like, because you're feeling so relaxed, you're feeling so good, everything's going so well for Helen, and then out of the darkness comes that voice. And I think
Yeah.
that, I mean, Tony Todd, I cannot believe that they considered Eddie Murphy for this role. Like, what
Yes,
in
they
God's
did.
name was that gonna
Yeah.
how was that gonna sound like, "Hey, Helen?" It's like, that just was not gonna work. And they decided that he was too short. So, they went with 6'5" Tony Todd because he is so good at portraying this person who is so terrifying, because I'm with you. This scene is so scary because you feel so scared for Helen. You don't know what guy's going to do. He's got his hook on full display, so you know that he's a bad mofo.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, like, he's not holding back. He's showing you everything here, but you also understand why she looks like that, as he
Hmm.
comes slow walking towards her in his pimp coat, looking all
Yeah.
impressive, and he's doing his seductive voice, and she's all confused. She's like, "I'm sorry, I have to go." And I'm like, "Don't go, Helen, stay with him." But no, I think
Right.
the scene, again, it kind of reminds me of that like the vampire analogy. The vampire is bad for you. The vampire is coming to suck your blood. But part of you is
Yeah.
like, okay, yeah, all right, we can roll with this. You're kind of cute. You're kind of seductive. We'll see what happens. And I feel like, yeah, like Tony just he does that so well. Like you want to
Yes.
run away, but at the same time, you kind of want to be his victim because he's
Mhm.
just so seductive. And yeah, I think this first interaction, it just really lays the groundwork for what this dynamic is going to be for the rest of the movie.
Yes.
She's going to spend the rest of the movie both kind of finding him alluring, but also finding him terrifying. And similar to like a
Yes.
vampire, he's coming into her life and he's slowly draining the life out of her by killing people, by affecting her life, by making it so that
Yes.
she's basically left with no one so that
All
he can get to
alone.
the point where he can take her. And it all starts with this one scene. And then, of
Mhm.
course, we have the aftermath of that scene. So we go from this
Right?
beautiful kind of calm,
Yeah.
hypnotic scene to all of a sudden Anne Marie is screaming bloody murder, and
Yes.
she's waking up in a puddle of blood, and then she walks out and there's the dog's head, and it's like, oh my god, it's like it's such tonal whiplash, but it works
Yes.
so to show that, like, even though he is seductive and even though you might want to be his victim, you don't actually want to be his victim. Like,
Right.
this is a
Right.
bad guy. And I think that that scene and those two scenes together juxtapose that so well and really show all the sides of Candyman, the seductiveness, the allure, but also the absolute horror that he is going to
Mhm.
bring into your life. And I just think
Absolutely.
that is so well done in those scenes. Yeah.
Absolutely. No, well said. There's no doubt about that. I agree with all of that. And real quick too, in the chat, we got BTT is preaching the gospel, saying, "I'm telling you, Knight, I'm the biggest Candyman fan of
I
all
know.
time."
We
There
we
you
may have to rest. We might have to have a bit of a showdown for that title, but
go.
okay.
There you go. There you go. Let's see. We got Roger again, just being so amazing tonight, joining us as a watcher officially, becoming part of the inner circle, coming in with a super chat and saying what again we have to
Mhm.
keep remembering it. And I'm going to be honest with you. Well, let me just read it. First of all, saying rest in peace to a legend, Tony Todd. And I'm going to say to you guys, there was a time on the channel that if possible, if we were streaming, I used to really love to take that time um to kind of showcase, legends that we have lost. And I didn't get a chance to do that for Tony Todd. Part of the reason too was it was so emotional. I mean, it was just so emotional for me, and um I just didn't want to have a presentation on a live stream that kind of got away from honoring him, because like I said, guys, this actor um, just was very important to me, and this movie in particular was very important. But trust me, there were some shedding of tears and a lot of just thoughts about him. There still is, and that's why I was so happy that I was able to do this stream tonight with Rachel. It kind of came out of it was almost like fate because again we've talked about a few things here and there, and then it was kind of like, well, let's do this tonight. So anyways, I'm so glad to be able to do it. But thank you, Roger, so much for the super chat. We appreciate it, seriously. As Val was saying, thank you, because it really helps to support the channel. um and JT come in and said, Candyman never messed with anybody as long as they kept his name out of their mouth. It's a good point. So true. We
Dear.
got Breezy. Breezy in the house saying Candyman is a top 10 horror movie of all time. No debate. All
Mm.
right. All right. Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorites. There's no doubt at all. Let's see. One of the scariest movies ever and well written. It was just so well written. No doubt. Let's see. Let's see. I just want to catch up. Breezy's breaking it down though. Candyman destroys Jason Myers and gives Pinhead a run for his money, but then says Freddy destroys Candyman. Not gonna lie. Okay, there we go. He said he destroys Pennywise too. All right, we got it. We got it. Very cool. Um, Now listen, let's get into kind of what got us here tonight, though, Rachel. When I had, and I've had a couple different streams, talking about classic movies and villains and characters and so forth. And when we talked about Candyman as a slasher, you were very vocal in the chat about your perception of it as far as that it's not a slasher film. Let's start to talk about that a little bit. And you guys in the chat, join in, let us know what you think as well. We may not be able to get to everyone's comment, but we're going to try. Rachel, tell me what you think about the idea of Candyman either being or not being a part of the slasher subgenre.
I like I said in the chat, I can understand why some people may consider this a slasher. I mean, Candyman himself, he does have an iconic weapon. He's got the hook.
Hmm.
The kills that we do see are very bloody. And he is kind of put up there with like Jason and Freddy and Michael when it comes to horror movie villains. But for
Hmm.
me, I mean, we had a whole stream last week about slashers and what makes a good slasher and all the hallmarks for a slasher. And for me
Hmm.
personally, I don't feel that Candyman kind of fits that because, okay, so if you look at slashers, you usually, and this is not always, obviously there are slashers that do go outside of this realm, but in general, a slasher will be, it'll be centered around teens or young adults.
Mm-hmm.
It's usually a very fast-paced movie. Like slashers move very quickly. You know, there's always the killers coming after them. You'll have iconic things like chase scenes and opening kills and things like that. They're usually a little bit more youth-oriented. They're usually a little bit more quippy. The dialogue's usually a little
Mm-hmm.
bit snappier. Things like that. Candyman to me has always read, or I've always viewed it as a modern gothic horror. It has
Mm-hmm.
all the markings of a classic gothic horror. Even though it's set in an urban setting, you know, you
Mm-hmm.
have the heroine who is flirting with life or death with this. It's kind of a death and the maiden story. You know, Candyman, like I said, is this vampiric kind of figure who is kind of overhanging over Helen's life and is seducing her while he's destroying her life. You know, it doesn't have things like, you know, when you look at slashes, you usually have like a one by one, like Scream, you'll have the victims drop this one, this one, this one, this one. Candyman
Right.
doesn't really have that, you know. When you think about the deaths in Candyman, you do have the opening scene, but like I said, that could very much be viewed as just an imagined spot as someone is retelling the legend of Candyman. When
Mm-hmm.
Candyman actually arrives, his first on-screen human kill is Bernadette, and we don't even see that kill, and that happens like 50 minutes into the movie. The
Mm-hmm.
only kill we really see is the doctor
The doctor.
in the asylum, which granted is a pretty nasty scene, like
Yeah.
definitely. But like if you've just got that one scene, like you think of like Michael, you think of Freddy, you can think of like half a dozen iconic kills for each of them. Candyman doesn't have that. For me, Candyman, the terror is more about that, like I said, that way he's going to suck the life out of you, the way he's going to come into your life, kind of take over your life as this very big, shadowy figure, and you almost feel like you've invited him in. You know, it kind of makes me
Right.
think of Nosferatu with poor Lily Rose Depp's character accidentally
Mm-hmm.
inviting him in as a child and then having to deal with this horrific presence as an adult that then haunts her life. You can see that with Helen here. She's doing this paper, she accidentally decides to see if it's even real, and then suddenly her life is just completely upended. So for me, because this movie is slower, the pacing is slower, you don't even see Candyman until 40 minutes into the film, because it's so centered just on Helen as like a central character as opposed to a group setting. You don't have
Mm-hmm.
those iconic settings like, we're not in Woodsboro, we're not at, Camp Crystal Lake, we're not on Elm Street. All of these
That's
markings that
right.
I think make, yeah, a slasher. Candyman for me doesn't have, but it has always read more as a dark fairy tale or as a gothic horror for all of like what I've said already. So that's why I personally don't see it as slasher, but I do understand why people might list it as one. I just, yeah, if I was like arranging my Blu-rays or something by like category, subcategory, I would put this in gothic horror alongside like Dracula and Crimson Peak and Nosferatu and all of those, because I think it has much more in common with those movies than it has with,
Mm-hmm.
say, Scream or Friday the 13th. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's why I don't see it as a slasher. So I'm curious as to know where you fall on this now.
Well, I think, and like we kind of teased upon when we were, just talking about slashers, and you had, thrown this out as your viewpoint. Like everything you said is absolutely correct, and I would say, to me, well, let me start as a kid. As a kid, I definitely looked at it as a slasher because I was kind of, well, first of all, his whole operation, so to speak, stalking Helen, along with anyone that says his name or whatever. And I was just thinking, man, this is totally like slasher material. And I was so he's one of the few villains that I truly was afraid of. I just like, wow, man, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy. Like I said, I've never said it 5 times, and I'm not going to. It's just not going to happen. So, to me, it felt like it had the slasher elements. He's got the hook for the hand. So, of course, that's and it sounds weird, especially for people that maybe aren't big into slashers or what have you, but that's a big part of it. When you think about the definition of it, the whole idea, these are films that have been popular since the 50s, to the 90s or what have you. But you usually have a killer A lot of times it's a mass killer murdering a person or a group of people, usually a group of people, like you said, the teenagers type of trope and so forth. Um, but they usually have a bladed weapon, usually a knife or an axe or machete or what have you. So, in that sense, by that definition alone, I think it has, put it this way, it has enough elements for someone to call it a slasher, in my opinion. It's almost got, like, let's say 70% of the slasher elements. But what makes this movie interesting, like you said so well, but I also think is what helps to elevate this movie is it does have that gothic atmosphere. It's got this, like I said earlier, and this is a word I've never really thought about, but it's so sophisticated.
It
You've
is.
you've got
Mm-hmm.
you've got this almost this pseudo romance going on that is
Mm-hmm.
very, it's very, it's likened to something like Dracula. And Tony Todd's character, Candyman, is very much like a vampire. This
Mm-hmm.
whole idea of seduction, will you or won't you? And I think that's what elevates it a little bit outside of slasher territory. And I could definitely, like, to me, if someone says, okay, is it a slasher or not? I'm going to say it's a slasher. But the caveat is that I would say that I think it leans out of the subgenre as well. It's very much, like I said, very much like Dracula. I mean, hell, Freddy, there were moments where Freddie kind of leaned out of that a little bit when you think of, and even Robert's even talked about that. Robert England's even talked about that. The idea of that dance with Nancy, or even with Jesse in Freddy's Revenge, will they or won't they type of thing. So even with Elm Street, not as much as Candyman for sure, but even something like Elm Street, you had a villain that was kind of pulling you out of that standard slasher vibe a little bit. And I think that's what, put it this way, I think it's an advantage of a movie like this, and obviously Elm Street to a different degree, but I would still call it a slasher though.
That's fair enough.
I
I
I
also
really
think,
would.
yeah, I also think the ending kind of sets it aside from other slashers as well. Because if you look at like
Yes.
your average slasher, the ending is almost always some big physical showdown with the final, with the final girl and your villain.
Yes.
Whereas this is almost Helen going to Candyman to succumb to him so that she can just save that baby. Like that's her intent. She doesn't go there to destroy Candyman. She doesn't go there to have some big epic battle. She goes there partially to succumb to him, but also to save the baby. And then,
Yes.
I mean, we've talked about this before, but the ending of Candyman is almost tragic. Like I was watching it
Yes.
because I just watched it again like a couple of days ago, and I swear to God, every time he yells from that fire, "Come
Come
back to me!"
back.
I'm like, Helen, go back to him. He's
Go
so
back into the fire.
go back into the fire, Helen. Candyman's so sad without you. Like it really gets you. Whereas I'm not watching Scream going, yeah, Sydney, give Billy another chance. Like it's just not,
Right.
it's not the same. So I think, yeah,
Yeah.
the ending sets it apart. But no, I definitely get what you're saying. And like I said, it's not something that I would like, fight someone over. It's just something that I personally would view this, yeah, more as a gothic horror
Yeah.
and not a slasher. But I can definitely see the elements that are there. And like you said, like Tony Todd, he's got the hook, he's got the iconic killing thing, and that is you're right, that is very important and very significant to slashers. You think of you think of Freddy and you think of his claws, you think of
Yep.
Jason, you think of his machete, you think of Leatherface, you think of his chainsaw, so you think of Candyman
Mhm.
and you think of the hook. So there's definitely that. And the kills are very bloody. Like we don't see
Yeah.
Bernadette, the aftermath of poor Bernadette, like
Yes.
wow. That
Yeah.
is I don't know if they had like if they did like a body double or if they actually put Casey Lemons in that makeup, but like Bernadette lying there all blue with her guts everywhere, that is horrifying. So
Yes.
definitely see
Oh
where you're
my
coming
god.
from.
Yeah, no doubt. But again, I think it's also what makes this film um just so special because it's got
Mhm,
all these wonderful elements. There is a complication and a complexity to these elements, and it makes it so that you can, like I said, you are so engulfed, or at least I was and
Mm.
still am, by what this film did, and just the emotion behind it. It's such a powerful, powerful film. It really,
Mhm.
really is. Um, let's jump to the chat real quick. And by the way, this scene right here, I just wanted to say too, this scene right here, when he appeared, I was just like, "Oh crap." It's like, and to me, that was almost, and I think, look, we're both making some great points for why it's not a slasher film. You know what I mean? And by the way, you guys in the chat, let us know what you think. We're going to get to some of those comments in a second. But it has those moments where I think it like definitely dips its toe, maybe its whole foot or leg into that pool of the slasher subgenre. And this was one of those scenes, man, because when
Yes.
when it's on. When she first sees him, when he has the claw come out of the cabinet,
One
oh
of the most
my,
effective jump shot scares in that movie because 'cause you're really
yeah,
not expecting it, and then it just comes yeah, and then she's running through the hallways, and she runs outside, and Jesus Christ, he's there at the end of the hallway, so it's like, yeah, no, that definitely feels
yeah,
like that kind of, like, Michael chasing you through the shadows type
yeah,
thing, and then, yeah, she goes into her house, she locks the door, she turns around, and, "Oh, crap, he's already here," you know?
right.
Like, there's
It's
no
like,
escape.
I'm thinking to myself, man, I thought Michael was the only horror ninja. This guy,
Right?
he's ready to go.
Definitely. And it's just
It-
again, it's like that feeling that she just can't escape him, no matter
yeah,
what she does, no matter where I mean, this is her home. This is where she
right.
should be safe. And like he's still going to get you. And I always feel so bad for her when Bernadette is at the door and she's helpless on the floor and she's screaming, "No,
Okay.
Bernadette, go away." Because
Yeah,
she knows what is about to happen. And she's so
right.
desperate to stop it. And again, it reminds me very much of like Mina Harker or Ellen from Nosferatu, that helplessness of watching the people you love die because of this
Yes.
entity that you have accidentally invited in. It's really horrifying, and just
It
poor
yeah.
Bernadette.
Yeah, absolutely. Poor Bernadette. No
Mhm.
doubt about that at
Mhm.
all. Real quick, too, in the chat, just to jump in to hear with these guys, because they're doing a lot of work. We really appreciate you guys being here. We got
Mhm.
Super Tenor in the house. We got
Ooh.
Bronson in the house. Shout out to Bronson as well, who gave a fantastic request, joining the channel membership at the Sci-Fi Stars level, so you can throw in requests and we will execute them either by video or live streaming. We did that last night and had a fun time talking about the late great Wes Craven, John Carpenter, and Tim Burton, their
Mm.
films. And we even did a ranking, 36 films. If you haven't seen it,
I
check it
saw
out.
that was a lot of different films that you guys managed to put on that list. I was very
Yeah.
happy to see Red Eye on there for someone's Wes Craven pick. That was
Yes.
fantastic. But yes, that was a
Yes.
fun stream.
Yes, it was a lot of fun. So Bronson definitely hooked us up, and thank you so much. And we got Mayanne in the house. What is up, May? Very cool to see you. Saying hello, my dear Night Watch fam. Happy St. Patrick's Day. Well, same to you, May, and hope that you're doing well and feeling better. Always great to have you here. And by the way, and I'm going to be doing this, we're going to be streaming later on this week. I haven't even set up the stream yet, live, anyways, but it's going to be a blast. You guys get ready for Friday night. We're going to be doing something special. And I will be showing these pictures. Nightfall, we've got May. I'm going to see if I can get one from Neil, but you guys were able to receive your very own little figure from Coriander's Creations. And Mayanne sent such a beautiful picture of her little one holding the Chucky figure. It was so
That's so
adorable.
cute and kind of concerning, but very cute.
He is true. Hey, we got to get the next generation set up,
That is
okay?
very true, that is very
You
true.
know, and Mayanne is doing the work of the people, but thank you so much, May. All right. Let's see. And JT, of course, a huge fan of slashers, saying stalk and slash for sure. If you look at the point of stalking Helen. Good point. Good point. Absolutely. Nightfall is in the house. What's going on, man? Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Let's see. And BTT, of course, absolutely. That ending, what a gut punch. What a gut punch. It was absolutely so cool. So cool. Um, and Nightfall saying Candyman's my second favorite of all time behind 78. There you go. You know what's going on, buddy.
Awesome. Mhm.
You
Yep.
know. Now, let's also get into this because actually BTT jumped ahead of me on this, but I wanted to just touch barely, and you don't want to go all the way into it because that could be a whole nother live stream.
No,
But
I
I
make no
just
promises.
Let, let's just touch upon the 2021 film as far as maybe just our excitement that we had before we saw it. Okay. I don't want to really talk about what we think of it because, again, that could be another stream that I'd love to talk about. We did that when the film came out. And so I haven't really talked much about it since then. But I just want to say what BTT said that made me want to get to this point now, saying in the script for the most recent sequel, Helen was supposed to be the main antagonist. Now, let me just say, and then I'm going to get to you, Rachel. I was so hoping, like we had seen a lot of the behind the scene pictures, a little bit of the promotional stuff going on, and so forth. There was this scene where you saw someone, it looked just like it was Helen, that it was going to be Virginia, short, blonde hair, just like she appeared at the end of the original. And I was so, dude, I'm telling you, just thinking about it right now, I hope you can hear it in my voice. I was just so hoping to see her. And of course, spoilers or light spoilers, because we're not going to get into the 2021 film, but light spoilers, we didn't get that. I think it was
No.
a huge. It was maybe the second biggest missed opportunity. And I think you probably know what the biggest missed opportunity was. If you saw the film for like zero point 0.8 seconds, you know what the biggest missed opportunity in it was. But Rachel, first of all, what did you think of the fact that, Helen wasn't in the new film? And just just lightly, what was your excitement for the new film and so forth?
I think I was the same, like, I found out that the movie was coming out, and I found out that I heard the rumors that Virginia Madsen was coming back, and given the ending of the first film and the rumors that it was going to be Helen-centric, I was really, really excited. I remember thinking, "Oh my god, they're actually gonna take, like, what we got at the end of the first film and run with it." That being said, when they made the switch and we started to hear more about what the story was actually going to be, and then we started to get a little bit more, I was disappointed that it wasn't going to have Helen, but I was also kind of cautiously optimistic and curious about what the film was going to be like. And I particularly liked that it was in the hands of a black director and that the writing team, had, like Jordan Peele as executive
Yeah.
director and a bit of writing and stuff like that. So I remember thinking the team that they're collecting is really good. And then when I started to hear little bits and pieces about the story, I remember thinking, okay, no, this actually sounds hopeful. And what I do like, and I won't give too much away, but I do like that they did manage to we did manage to get some mention of Helen in the film, and I won't say
Yes.
how, but I actually
Right.
really liked how they worked that in, and I thought that was
Hmm.
really, really good. So yeah, no, I remember being really excited for the film. I remember when the trailer came out, and I
Yeah.
watched the trailer, and it was so good. And then like Tony
Yeah.
Todd's voice came on at the end of the trailer, and
Right?
I think I actually was like, oh my god, it's him! Oh my god, it's the voice! And I was like so excited, and it was just like, oh my god, he's coming back. And yeah, so great. So yeah, the 2021 film, I definitely there are definitely some issues, but I also think that it did a really good job with certain aspects of the film. And if anyone
Hmm.
is curious, I actually have a video on my channel about the new Candyman, and it basically is a kind of like a little exploration of the new movie versus the old movie and what it does differently, and what I think is done better and what I think is done worse. So if anyone's
Hmm.
curious, you can check that out. But no, I remember being like when the trailer came out, it was kind of a similar reaction when I watched the Halloween 2018 trailer and the theme
Hmm.
started playing, and it was just like, oh my god, yes! Like it's like those moments that make you like really, really excited. So yeah, when the trailer came
Yeah.
out and I heard Tony's voice, and I was just like,
Right?
oh
I
yeah,
was like,
uh-huh.
you know, let me just say this, and I know I said I didn't want to get into it, but I gotta say one more thing, and let me also say this too, because I don't know if I've seen that video of yours. I might have.
Okay.
I might have. Can you do me a favor? And I don't know if you're able to or not, but if you want, you can put the link
Yeah, that'd be great. I
into the
will
live
do.
chat. I'm trying to
Cheers.
remember if I saw that. I might have seen that. I remember,
Mm,
and I've said this to you, and I've said this in live streams before. I remember when I first stumbled upon your channel, and just watching, some of your stuff. And of course, you're a big '90s fan. You're a big Buffy
mhm.
fan, and Charmed, and so forth. And some of those things I haven't had a chance to get really deep into. But
Yeah.
the way you talked about things was just so like engaging, and I was like,
Oh,
yeah, this lady, she's all right. She is all right. So I just want to throw that out there. But
thank
yeah,
you.
if you could put, no, I know, I
Thank you.
absolutely mean it. And to be
That's
able
lovely.
to, hang out and do streams together, and be a part
Mhm.
of each other's creator lives and so forth. It's really, for me, it's really, really cool. It's always been very cool. But let me just say
Excellent.
this. And JT's always riding to the edges to tell everyone. I was like, what? I know, right? So listen.
My God, I literally had a physical reaction to in the movie. Like when that came on, I remember I was with my husband and I literally like I flinched. Like I actually had a physical reaction to that line. It was
Yeah. Yeah.
insane.
When the trailer came out, and you know, we heard Tony Todd, and I was just thinking to
Mhm.
myself, this is almost the perfect setup for a sequel, however they wanted to word it. I know they used a lot of different wordings, spiritual sequel, within the
Yes, yes,
world of
requel,
Candyman,
et cetera.
blah blah
Yeah.
blah. But the story itself, and Candyman as a character himself, it was perfect because, well, and again, I won't get into the new movie, but it was just perfect. But I do think, like you said, they were successful with some aspects of the story,
Mm,
and then there were other things where I think they didn't go where they could have,
yeah.
and
Mm,
really, not only give the new film a very cool identity, but also some of the bridges to the '92 film. So I'll just say that. But I was so excited, and I think we definitely are going to have to talk about the 2021 film. That would be really, really
absolutely.
cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um,
100%.
and real quick too, our good friend, our dear friend, the fantastic Mayan, saying Candyman watch party, let's go. She's got a channel
Mhm.
member anniversary for 22 months, the big 2-2. Thank you so much, May, for everything you do. Seriously, you're such a big, vital, important part of this family, and also always helping out with being a mod, which is a huge responsibility. Thank you so much. We really, really appreciate you. You know that. Much love to you. Um, so parking back to '92 as we start to wind down a little bit, the other question I wanted to pose to you, and it might sound really stupid to some folks, but this whole film is about, again, this connection that they have, for her being not only intrigued by him, but also revolted, trying to be the hero, trying to not submit, and all of those types of things. He sees her as a connection to his past, and possible future. So there's a
Mhm.
lot of cool things when we talk about, and I've talked a little bit about this recently in some of my latest videos. If you guys haven't checked them out, please do. A lot of the themes of sexuality and horror and so forth, attraction and horror and so forth. Do you think that his love for Helen, if it is love, first of all, you can answer that as well. What do you think of it? Is it pure? What do you think of it? Does it exist? And if it's not love, what is it?
Don't think it's love. I think it's more like, ah, bordering on obsession, but it's kind of almost and again, I'm actually gonna rest back on Nosferatu for this. There's that
Hmm.
scene where he comes to her and Ellen's like, "You do not love," and he's like, "No, but
Right.
I cannot be sated without your love." And I'm like, I
Yes.
think it's that sort of a deal. He feels a need for Helen. She's the one who
Hmm.
summoned him. She is possibly a reincarnation of his past love. And I think that the summoning of him and the disbelief that she has sown in the community has made him latch onto her to almost use her to make his story what it was again. I mean, he even says that to her. You and I will
Hmm.
become a tale that children will whisper. He wants Helen. I think he wants Helen to be part of his story, to actually
Hmm.
kind of be absorbed into his world. So I wouldn't call it love. I would call
Hmm.
it yearning, like an obsessive
Mm.
kind of yearning for this woman who has accidentally summoned him. And I think just the further they go and the more he's trying to get at her and the more she's trying to resist him, the more he kind of wants her. And I just think that you have that wonderful culmination with all the bees. Let's talk about the bees for 2 seconds. The scene with the bees, coming
Yes.
out of his mouth, opening up his jacket, and they're all in his rib cage. And isn't that a fantastic shot? That's one of my favorite shots. Yes, look at that. Like that is
Yeah.
amazing. And I remember, and,
Hmm.
and most people will probably know this, but Tony Todd wrangled a deal where he was paid $1,000 per sting, and he got
Yes.
stung 23 times. So he made some okay money off this movie. And poor Virginia Madsen was allergic to bees. They had to keep a ambulance on the set in case they needed to rush
Yes.
her off. But I also remember hearing that they used adolescent bees or baby bees for this, the ones that
Yes.
don't have the sting. But I think
Hmm.
this scene, so I had to go on a tangent for the bees because I mean, you just don't see this in movies anymore. I mean, no one's
You don't.
covering anyone in bees anymore, and probably rightly so, but you do lose something when you don't have the practical effects. And that scene in
Hmm.
particular, where I remember when I found out that they actually put the bees in his mouth, I was like, oh, dude, like there's commitment and then there's insanity. Like, we don't need to
Yeah.
go this hard for our art, but very grateful that he did. Grateful that he did. But yeah,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
think this scene really shows that no, Candyman, he doesn't love Helen. I think it's more that he wants to possess Helen. He wants
Mm.
Helen to be his victim and to be with him and perish in the fire so that they can have that legendary love that then goes on. And I think the fact that she does perish in the fire and then of course she does come back as her own legend, suck on
Hmm.
it, Trevor.
Yeah.
Then yeah, I think that is great. So that's kind of how I see Candyman's his feelings for Helen. What about you? How do you see it?
I think that you hit it on the money. I think it's not love in the traditional sense of the word. I think it's more that because of what happened to him, the way that he was killed, almost in a state of loving, you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying, and
Yep.
being separated from the love of his life, which
Mhm.
talk about a backstory. That backstory is so
Horrific.
horrific, it's so chilling.
Mhm.
Hell, man, I might have to put this out. I did a well, not a trailer, but kind of like a narration. Again, when we were doing the Candyman stuff,
Mm.
2 or 3 years ago on the channel, we were doing a whole bunch of stuff, and I did this. It was actually a short, where I did a narration of the backstory of Candyman and so forth and so forth, because I was hyping up the new film,
That
and
is so cool.
yeah, and and a lot of people loved it. I took it down. Actually, I think I'm gonna put it back up. Maybe I'll put it out
Mm.
to you guys that are members as a cool little, cool little treat or whatever.
Mm.
I have no inkling of being able to vocally be anything like a Tony Todd. Like Tony, there's some people like a Tony Todd, Morgan Freeman, some
Oh,
people that
mhm.
have this
Yeah,
way
the
about
voice.
them, whether it's their
Mhm.
voice or the way they speak. You know what I'm saying? Ralph Ineson from The Witch, I absolutely love. Dude, he could sing a Disney song, and
Yeah.
not only will it affect me, but it's gonna send a chill through me. Like, that's
Yeah.
how good he is with his voice. But I
Mhm.
will say this, when I was doing this short, I was trying to channel, just even 2% of the Tony Todd coolness, and, people really enjoyed it. But I say all that to say, the way he lost his love, I think what he has for Helen is his definition of a love, which is possession, longing, loneliness, and so forth. And he sees a woman that is, in his eyes, that reincarnation. You know what I'm saying? So he wants her. And of course, there's a lot of other things tied into it as well, because she wasn't a believer, and now
Mm.
he can augment. his legend, his mythology. Dude, right now, all the stuff that we're saying, this is a freaking amazing movie. Like, how the hell, does this
Oh, it's
happen in horror? It
good.
doesn't.
Oh,
It
I
it doesn't.
know.
It doesn't.
Mhm.
And that's why this movie stands out. If
Mm,
anybody is watching that is a filmmaker, or if anyone right now that might be a filmmaker in 10 or 15 years, I'm telling you, you got to hit these levels because
mhm,
like this is what makes a film so amazing, when you have all these
mhm.
layers that you can peel back like an onion. It is so amazing. But I agree with you though. Is the whole idea of possession, augmenting his legend and so forth. So it's not love in the sense of, the traditional way of looking at love. I think it's his twisted
Yes.
concept of it, so to speak. At least that's the way, I workshop it in my mind. Now, real
Yeah.
quick, as we continue to wind down, I just want to jump in because JT also talking about it. He could be in a love limbo with Helen. He died
Mm,
because of love, so he is stuck. Yeah, that's a
yeah.
great way to look at it as well. I definitely dig that. Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
BTT saying that's exactly what I was thinking. Love isn't always a good thing. It can mess you up.
mhm.
And now he's stuck in a realm of love and revenge.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
And I do love a dark romance because they exist,
Yeah.
and through dark romances, you can explore slightly more unsavory aspects that might be a little too intense if you put them in just a film about two people. Like if this was just a regular film with some dude stalking a chick, we'd probably all just be like, okay, he's a creeper, just go away. But when you put it in like a mythical sense or a supernatural sense, I mean, this is why I've always loved vampire fiction because you can explore
Mm,
these darker, more obsessive, very passionate but unhealthy loves in a very safe way and in a way that, you can enjoy it. You don't have to worry about moralizing or, what kind of message you're taking away from it. So, yeah, I
hmm.
really do love a dark love story. And again, it kind of
Yeah.
ties into why I view this as a gothic horror because you always have that kind of dark romance in gothic horrors. These loves that are not
Hmm.
healthy, but you can understand why they're so appealing and
Hmm.
why these women fall for these men who come into their lives and ruin it, but you can just see that allure. So, yeah, I think they do
Yeah.
it really well in this movie.
Agreed, agreed. And also BTT is throwing it out there saying a Candyman subscriber watch party, please. I always feel left out. But let me just say
Oh.
this. If and definitely don't feel left out. All of you guys here are very special to us. If we do that, which is a possibility. I don't want to promise anything yet because we've got a couple things um, planned for the channel and so forth. And unfortunately, time is always against us.
Mhm.
As
Yes.
much as I try to do, and I do, I work on channel stuff every single day.
Mhm.
But as far as doing the watch party, I will put that on the list. That would definitely be something I would like to do as well, and I'm sure if Rachel's available, she would absolutely love to join
Absolutely.
us as well.
Mhm.
So stay tuned, and let me also say this, guys. The community tab is how I most easily communicate with folks, and especially if you're a channel member. You can also check out our Patreon. There's also a live chat that I can communicate with people very easily. And you could become part of the Patreon. You could become a free member if you're not able to support us yet. So stay tuned, BTT. That's the bottom line. Stay tuned. I'll see what we can do. I think that would be actually a really fun thing to do. Um, and wow, man, actually, geez, she's so quick. She put the Patreon link. This is crazy. Thank you so
This is
much.
why she's a moderator.
You're right. You gotta be quick.
Mhm.
You gotta think ahead. And one thing I can say about May and Julie, and of course Val and Sarah, our moderators, they know kind of my rhythm. So that's kind of
Yes.
cool. I
Yeah.
really it helps. It helps so much. Um, let's try to get to 30 likes. Absolutely. If you haven't hit the like button, please do. Please do. Let me also just say this as we wind down. I know I keep saying that, but this is so much fun, this whole idea of love, or his concept of love. Look at the look on the face of Tony Todd. I mean, this was beautiful stuff. What was going on with him and Virginia Madsen, the chemistry. When he sadly passed away, of course, Virginia um, gave a tribute and just said some really beautiful things. You could tell that they had an amazing actor relationship on this film, and a respect and love for each other. And it really could bring you the tears. Just thinking about it gets me a little emotional. I
Yeah.
might even have to revisit it because hearing her talk about it, um, or if you watch the behind the scenes of Candyman, which I
Oh,
used to
yeah.
have that up on the channel. It's not any longer because YouTube is a certain way. Um,
Yes.
yeah, I'm ranting, but just the look on his face and so forth, there was a power
Oh,
to this
yeah.
film. I just wanted to say that. But as you said, and thank you, May, rest in peace to Tony Todd, no doubt at all. But like you said, at the end of the film, the gut punch of her becoming her own legend, bro. I was there's a part of me that wanted to cheer. There's a part of me that was sad, and there's a part of me that was revolted because I was just like, no, not my Helen. You know what I'm saying? But it was a perfect type of ending. What are your thoughts on this ending?
Oh, I love this ending. I remember when yeah, when I first watched the film and this ending happened, it was such a gut punch. It was like, "Oh my god, Helen!" And I remember just like, "Wow, she actually," like, it was almost like he got her. He made her part of the
Yes.
legend, and then the other half of me was like, "Yeah, girl, gut his ass. Gut his unfaithful ass. He totally deserves this because Trevor is
Right?
just the worst." Yeah. And I really kind of like the implication that his stupid little, 19-year-old girlfriend is going to end up taking the rap. And I kind of like that implication that this cycle is
The
not going to
cycle.
end. It's just going
Yes.
to keep going and going. And I just think that's
Yes.
such a great ending. But yeah, no, that ending, that gut punch, that what's the matter, Trevor? Look like you've seen a ghost. Just so good. Everything about it. It's just
Yeah.
it was the perfect way, I think, to end the movie, to show that Helen lives on, that Candyman lives on, and, oh, I should briefly mention, I love the funeral scene. I love the scene where, her
Yes.
husband's there and the professor's there, and they're thinking no one else is coming because her reputation has been so tarnished, and then you just look over the hill, and here comes Anne Marie. Oh, let's give a little shout out to the ageless Vanessa Williams, who
Yes.
basically looks exactly the same age now as
She
she did back
does.
then. It's like, what?
It's
How did that
crazy.
even happen? Yes.
Right?
So yeah, so I absolutely just love everything about the end of this movie. I think it works so well and it just gives that final gut punch and it's just fantastic. It's so good. And yeah, like I
Yeah.
said, just love seeing her gut Trevor's ass because God in heaven does he deserve it.
Well,
Oh dear.
the other part about it too, like you said, it's kind of like it's such an interesting ending because the bad guy won. The
He
bad guy
uh-huh.
won,
Yeah.
but in a way, and this is totally twisted. So please, folks in the chat, don't take it the wrong way. I'm not saying I'd want to become like Candyman, but like he said in the beginning, what's blood if not for shedding? Like in
Yes.
his world, as a vengeful spirit or what have you, in his world, this is how things operate. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
it's kind of like it's kind of weird because she becomes something greater in a sense, you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
She will live on in a sense. And the other part too, BTT, what's the matter, Trevor? Scared or
Yeah.
something. Yeah. You know, the other thing too is like you said, it's a cycle because at
Mhm.
the end of the film, when you have good old the MVP Stacy, um, and
See?
she's there screaming. And by the way, her scream was really good. But she's
It
got
was.
the knife and you're right. She's
Mhm.
gonna have to take the rap. This is gonna
Yep.
continue. And
Mhm.
that is intriguing. Like if you workshop it in your mind, it's like, oh my God, you've got this person who didn't do the killings, just like Helen and so forth and so forth. And
Yep.
what's gonna happen? What's gonna happen
Mhm.
now? So I think that the ending, that gut punch was fantastic. But let me throw one more thing out as we start to
Okay.
end it up here. Um, for me, and I alluded to it earlier, I said it earlier, when we get to that final shot of the image of Helen with that music, guys, look, I'm look, wow. Like this
Yeah.
movie is a beautiful, sophisticated film. It was so well done. It's like every time there was a fork in the road and one way is wrong and the other is right, it seemed like they took the right path. This was
Mhm.
such a beautiful ending. Like I rarely watch credits, throughout the end of a film. This is one of the films I always watch. Number one, because the music is beautiful, but number two, I'm just really entranced by the portrait of Helen and what it means, because my mind thinks of those things, what it means now with her legend. And like I said, as a kid, when I first saw this, I was so emotional. I mean, I still get emotional about it today, but it's just so powerful, so powerful. And it's beautiful. What did you think of this mural and what it meant and how it affected you?
Say it's gorgeous, and, like, as I look at it, I can hear the score in my head, I can hear that orchestral music, and I think that this is almost kind of a beautiful way to show that, at least at Cabrini Green, Helen has chased away Candyman's presence. He has been this presence that's hung around Cabrini Green. His murals there, they're all scared of him, but it's like now Helen has kind of gotten rid of that, and she reunited Anne Marie with her baby, and it's almost like it's saying like Candyman is gone and Helen has chased him away, and this is our way of remembering that. So I think it's a
Hmm.
really gorgeous ending and kind of makes Helen's death mean something, that she died to save this baby and to save this community. And it might be a little white saviorish, but that's a whole other conversation. But I do
Hmm.
like
Hmm.
this end bit and this implication of Helen being like this guardian angel and like because she went through the ringer to get that baby back. She
Hmm.
literally crawled through fire and just oh my god, the makeup
Yeah.
they do with Virginia Madsen in that scene. And I sometimes have a hard time watching that when she's on fire because you can
Yeah.
see like Virginia's really playing how much pain she's in because to be burned alive, that's painful. And she just
Yep.
I think the emotions in that are so good. So I think this culmination here of this final shot, and again, because we just saw her gut someone, it's kind of nice to have the movie end on like a bit more of a positive note of her showing her in a more
Right.
positive light. So yeah, I think it's a
Yeah.
beautiful ending and it really works. And like you said, that music, it really does get you. And because the whole movie is so emotional, it's just the culmination of that, of everything that
Yeah.
Helen has gone through, that she's able to maybe in death be seen, in this better light, and all of the things that she did maybe, all were to save this baby. And it's just a really beautiful ending, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's almost like you said, she becomes um not angelic, but again, there's a positivity that's spun on it in a way, you know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Because she did sacrifice herself to save new life, so to
Yes.
speak. And again, when we get a chance to talk about the new film, I mean, talk about again, the setup is just like wow. Like
Uh,
there's almost never been, and I'm sure there has, but just talking about it right here live, there's almost never been a better setup for a sequel many many years later, but the mythology works right in line with it. The ending of
mhm.
this film works right in line with
Yes.
it. Now of course we haven't talked
Yes.
about the other sequels, that might have to be a conversation as
Oh,
well,
yeah, that would be a whole conversation. Oh,
because
dear.
there is a second film and a third,
And a
we'll get into
third.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so look, it is what it is. Real quick too, Rory is in the house saying hey to everyone, saying sorry I'm
Hey.
late. No problem, but thank you for being here. BTT throwing in some other good fun facts. Originally, the camera was supposed to go through the slash in the mural, and we see Helen surrounded by bees. She opens her eyes, and the screen goes black. I think I had read something like
Yeah,
that,
that does sound
that it
very
was
familiar.
gonna go into the wall. Yes,
Mm.
that would have been interesting. Although I will say this, as much as I love Virginia and this character. And, maybe that might have been cool to see. Um, I don't think we needed it.
Yeah, I
I don't,
agree, I agree.
yeah,
It would have been a
I
cool
don't,
shot, but I think
yes,
that the shot that they end on is more effective in terms of the themes and Helen's arc and everything that we've discussed. But that would have been visually, that could have been very cool and very fun for
yeah.
them to play with. Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been cool, but again, as we go and it pans in closer and closer, and you see this is beautiful. I mean, the artwork is absolutely gorgeous,
Mhm.
and again, it just paints her as this angel of sorts, with the fire all around her
Mhm.
her head and so forth. Bro, this movie, I'm telling you, man, I'm so
Oh, yeah.
glad that we got a chance to talk about this and revisit
Me
it and kind of share this with folks that are fans of it, and maybe some that aren't very well versed in it, or maybe have never seen it. If you haven't seen it, guys, this is a great film. I just think, for me, especially horror films that can kind of go beyond horror, you know it's such a special thing.
Mhm.
It's such a special thing, and I think this film is part of why I am just attracted to it as I am. It's because it works on so many levels. Even just, I
Mhm.
mean, here we are, we just spent 10 minutes or 15 minutes talking about just the damn ending of it, like the image. It's like that's how that's how awesome this film is, because it's got so much that you can really mine out of it. So, anyways,
100%.
yeah, yeah, no doubt about it at all. Um, and Nightfall saying it's honestly a perfect film. Like I said,
Would agree with that. There's
I think it,
really nothing I would
yeah,
change in this film. I think you're right,
yeah,
Nightfall, because the story plays out beautifully. The pacing is great. Like we said, the acting is fantastic. That beautiful orchestral organ, and
yeah,
it just really it's kind of Phantom of the Opera, it kind of really brings that dread in and that atmosphere. And then of course that beautiful little piano score, that the Helen's theme, which is just
hmm,
so gorgeous. And like we said, the cinematography is great, everything's great, great ending. No, I would agree with it. I think Candyman is a perfect film. It is just
hmm.
fantastic. And look, we've spent almost 2 hours talking about it, and I'm sure if we had the time, we could sit here for another two. So
It's so true. It's so true. And hey, happy St. Patrick's Day to you too as well, Jason.
Jason.
Good to have you here. So, look, guys, we're gonna wind it down here. We appreciate you guys coming to hang out. We really dig that. This was such a fun conversation for you guys that are super fans of Candyman. We'll definitely, Rachel and I will definitely have some conversations about what we might tackle next, because I do think the conversation for the new film would be a very good conversation and interesting conversation. And like I said, this channel has not, had a chance to really cover any of that since the newer film came out, and of course that was 4 years ago. So
Yeah. Wow. Oy,
it's been,
time
yeah,
goes
it's
way too
crazy.
quickly.
It really, really does. There's no doubt about it. So we'll be talking about that possibility, and also maybe the possibility of a watch party. Again, for you guys that are newer to the channel, I try my best to maintain a pretty good schedule for our live stream shows on Monday nights, Sunday nights, and at times on Tuesdays or maybe later on in the week. But be ready to join us next week, and I think we're going to have some fun stuff lined up for you. So, anyways, if you haven't hit the like button, please do. It helps support us. Leave a comment. Let's talk about Candyman. Let us know your thoughts about it. A lot of you guys are huge fans. So, yeah, let us know what you think down there. We can continue the conversation. Make sure if you're not subscribed to Rachel's channel, do that. You have to do that. It really, really would be awesome of you to do that. And we will catch you guys next time. Thank you so much. Happy St. Patrick's Day. And as always, if you're watching this, if you're listening to this, you are the Night Watch. Peace.